Good morning, everybody. It's Wednesday, October 30th, and this is the AgYield War Room. I'm Dan Dempsey, and I'll be moderating today's session. As always, if you've got any questions or comments, please feel free to drop us a line in the chat area, and we'll be sure to get to it during the show. Overnight markets here, December corn down a quarter at 413.5. November soybeans were up 5 at 970 and a quarter, and December Chicago wheat was down 2 3/4 at 567 3/4. This morning, we had a couple of export sales announcements out from the USDA. 132,000 metric tons of soybeans to China for 24. Also announced was 132,000 metric tons of soybeans to unknown, also for 24. And finally, 273,048 metric tons of corn to unknown destinations for 24. We are through 21 of 23 settlements for the harvest price discovery period for crop insurance. So we're wrapping her up. Corn is currently at 416 and soybeans are at 1005. We've got a very special guest with us here this morning. We're excited to have him on. Jayson Entwistle, owner of Entwistle Family Farms down in Williamsville, Illinois, which is, for those that don't know, just north of Springfield there in the central part of the state. Jayson, great to see you this morning. I know we were visiting a little bit before the show, and you said actually wrapped up last night for harvest, so congratulations on that. Maybe fill us in a little bit on how harvest went for you this year, talk about where it was at relative to your expectations, and then we'll take it from there.
Sounds good. Good morning, Dan. Yeah, we got done last night. It's been a long, for me, it's kind of been a long go with no breaks, but everything went very smooth, as far as getting crops in and out. As far as our expectations, we always have very high expectations. I think we kind of fell in the line of, we would like to see things a little bit better, but at the end of the day, with the bigger crop is what's out there, we feel like that we had a very good crop. So, but we are very dry. We are seeing a little bit of anhydrous starting around here, but yeah.
And I think I think most of the Corn Belt relatively is supposed to get some rain here in the next, week to 10 days, 14 days. So it'll be a welcome reprieve. I mean, I would imagine that, guys that are looking to do this fall field work, are going to welcome some water, based on what I've been hearing.
Yeah, like I said, we're really dry, and we've been fortunate enough to have this good weather that God's gave us to get this crop out. So, but that will help, and I think you'll start seeing a lot more of that go on here as we do get a little bit of wet weather.
Sure. Dustin, I know you had a few questions here this morning for Jayson. Maybe let you take over.
Yeah, we're just talking kind of briefly before this, and just we've seen some strengthening for basis in your areas, definitely near the river as well, and just kind of curious on like what you're seeing for ground piles, where this corn is going. Is it going in the bag, in the bin? Are people moving it? Just what's your take on what you're seeing out there?
Yeah, so that is one thing that we have seen a lot this year is we've seen a lot of bags go down. As you drive around the countryside, you'll see a lot of bags out there. The question becomes and I'm sure most people are doing it for the carry, but there also is the logistics part of it too, of getting to the terminals or your endpoint or wherever your co-op might be. As we were talking a little bit earlier, we have noticed a couple of our local co-ops have put ground piles out, which, I was trying to think back of when the last time I've seen that happen. So it's been quite some time, but, there is a lot of bags. But it's also, it's easy. It's an easy way to keep harvest rolling, to keep everything running smooth.
Sure. Anybody else? Jayson?
Yeah, I got a question. Are you putting down fall anhydrous right now?
We are not. Like I said, we just got done yesterday, and kind of trying to give the guys a little bit of a break here and get stuff reorganized. And we're hoping to kind of let this rain event blow through and get started here probably the first part of well, I shouldn't say the first part of next week, but middle of next week, towards the end of next week. So
Okay, and what would you say? Have you thought at all about new crop rotation? Are you pretty consistent year over year? Could you see yields this year, corn versus beans, maybe influence next year, or fall work, or how do you view kind of planning rotations going into 25?
That is a good question. I mean, for us on our farm, I mean, we're going to keep everything the same. We're going to keep everything where we're at with what we're doing. We are kind of setting up, if this market stays strong, or wants to rally on the corn side, where we do have the option of doing corn on corn. I mean, we're sitting in an area where we can produce the corn on corn. So we are setting ourselves up for that. But I haven't really talked to a lot of guys to see what their opinion is. But usually that's kind of the thing that everybody's, doing. Have you guys, have you heard anything on any?
Just starting to kind of talk it through with some of our growers. I've heard some rumors that people are leaning a little more towards corn, which would make sense. I think we picked up, we did a rotation back to beans this last year for a lot of people, on a little heavier amount of beans. I would say that a lot of growers had really, really good corn yields and maybe not quite as good bean yields, but still good.
Yep.
And so just a natural rotation back to corn would make sense, especially if it's going on a bean field, right?
Correct.
But again, you look at some of these new crop prices. You got 440 corn, 10, 20 beans. It's a coin flip as far as price goes, in my opinion. It's going to be tough, right? I mean, if this is these are the prices we got to deal with all of next year, it's not going to be an easy decision, that's for sure.
It's not. And I think that's where a guy's got to make sure he can put himself in the right position where if the market does tell us, hey, you need to go plant corn, we're going to go plant corn, So I'm really looking forward to seeing if this crop is as big as what the USDA thinks it is. I think it's a big crop. Some days, as we were doing harvest, I'm like, boy, I just don't know. But then there are other days I'm like, man, this is big. So that'll be interesting going forward.
And that we saw for your bean yields too, kind of similar story, or?
Yeah, so we were a little bit different because we do a lot of non-GMOs. So sometimes I always feel like non-GMOs have a little yield drag with them. But, we didn't see a huge yield drag, I guess. If you can talk to your neighbors and neighbors tell you the truth, right? So, anyway, but yeah, I think our bean yield was actually about right where we targeted it. So, was pretty happy with that.
Jayson, I had an interesting conversation yesterday, and we were wondering, and maybe, I mean, you got a lot of friends in the area and folks that you see in the countryside, but, you got an election here in 6 days, right?
Yeah.
And don't worry, we're not getting political.
Yeah.
But as far as selling corn or making marketing type of decisions, what's the farmer's opinion on waiting this thing out, or what's kind of what's their mentality, if you will?
That's interesting because I've had a few conversations with guys, and it's like they really don't know what to do. They're just like, who's going to get in and who's going to just stir the pot, right? So that's going to be kind of interesting going forward. And I think I listened to Justin a few days ago talk about, man, we're ready for this thing to be over here in 10 days or whatever. And I think that's kind of the gist of the countryside. So that way we can kind of get this behind us and push on forward. And, whoever does get in, that, hopefully it will be friendly for us farmers.
Yeah, that's really good. Guys, anything else before we let Jayson roll this morning? All right.
No, thanks, Jayson. Appreciate it.
Hey, thanks for having me on, guys. I appreciate it.
Yeah, appreciate it.
Thanks,
Yeah.
Jayson. All right, be safe. Good luck out there.
Yep. Thank you.
Very good. Thanks for joining us this morning. That's Jayson Entwistle, Entwistle Family Farms, down in Williamsville. That was good stuff. It was interesting to get some of his feedback. Really good producing area down there in Central Illinois. So with that, guys, grain stuff. We had saw some sales pop up again here this morning. Dustin, maybe a few thoughts as we go into the open.
Yeah. So, the Brazilian real is kind of crashing again. And I think that's partly why beans were so weak yesterday. We're within range of recent lows, and there's a lot of air underneath the market if we touch calendar year lows in 2024. I think they have uncertain spending cuts coming, and they have kind of a bit of a political struggle between the central bank appointee and the current administration. So I think that's just such a headwind for markets if we continue to see their currency kind of support more favorable exports, a higher competition. The other thing to think about is talking about that rotation, beans to corn. At this point we're down to 2.31, which is below the long-term average, 10-year average for that ratio going into NOV 25 beans versus D's 25 corn. This is yesterday's settlement, 2.31. And that's just simply NOV 25 beans divided by D's 25 corn. For your corn on corn areas, you're going to start getting, I think, more interest. If we see a flat price rally, number one, we definitely need to see higher overall revenue for us to get really excited to see a lot more corn acres come back. I think less dollars in the pot, less risk when you're at negative margins like we have been to start 2 years in a row. And the other is like going down to that low ratio, sub 2.10 on the ratio would start to maybe support that as well. We're still a long way from that though at 2.31. And just something to keep in mind. Watch that on the screen. NOV 25 beans divided by D's 25 corn. We still have a ways to go down on the ratio before we can encourage more corn acres, in my opinion.
And Ben, what's on your mind this morning?
I think it's great that we continue to see sales. And I think regardless of the election next week, we're going to find out in the weeks following if this was front loaded or not, regardless. Corn to me is right now feels to be a non-story between, call it $3.99 and $4.25. Beans, first notice day, the markets work, spreads widen back out after almost trying to go inverted. I think we're on our last day here of commercials getting out, so the boot may be off the throat for a minute. And I think there's going to be a lot of uncertainty in things in general over the next, call it 6 to 12 days. And people are, I thought, brought up a great point yesterday that people are sitting on the sidelines kind of waiting to see how this plays out. So not overly aggressive in either direction. We'll see what happens here. I think Dustin makes a good point. If you take out new lows in beans, you could typically see another 2 to 3% decline would be historically what you could expect. Corn seems to be a rock right here between 409 and 414, 415. So
very good. Anybody else anything to add on the grain side here this morning before we go into the open? All good. All right, we'll go quickly over to Rylan here for some livestock. Soft day in the cattle markets, but hogs gap higher and go. So another really good performance yesterday in the hogs. So what do you got for us, Ry?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think we talked about it yesterday. It just kind of seemed like with cash performing the way it was that there was going to be another kind of round of this buy. And overall, the cash market has just been on fire this week. I mean, we saw another $1 up yesterday. So, I mean, we're over $6 for the week in terms of cash gains. You had a nice move and cut out the day before, but we were a little bit softer overnight yesterday. So, the shorts are getting squeezed here. That gap, I think, on the chart is, going to be an area of, maybe some support here from the managed money or anybody that's looking to get anything bought right now, just not trying to chase it. So, I mean, we're kind of in no man's land. We're at it's kind of strange market action just based on the calendar. So we'll see if there's going to be any more follow through here. I mean, I think there's a great opportunity, just from a producer standpoint, anybody that needs coverage going out into Q1 kind of next year. I mean, we've been looking at quite a bit of put options here, just getting that floor in place. and just in case this thing turns around, if this is something near term, I mean, these are prices that we didn't think we were going to have just a couple months ago. So we are still seeing open interest climb here. So I think we're getting hedge pressure. I think we're still seeing the funds come after this thing, but overall, we'll kind of see what happens. We're getting into overbought territory, so a little correction would not be a surprise at this point on the hog side. So on the cattle side, little bit of action yesterday in the northern cash markets, 189, 190-ish, kind of relatively light volume. So I think that got the market a little spooked. Usually the early trade would kind of whoop us up, but it just kind of seemed like with initial trade being about a buck lower, and the weakening that we're seeing in cutout, may cause a little bit of hedge pressure, a little bit of longs kind of on the defensive here. So we'll see. We did hold the 10-day moving average yesterday, so we'll see if that's going to be a price level we continue to chop around. But I mean, this move in the meats is definitely great for everybody right now. So I think it's just more of a kind of protectionary time to look at protectionary measures overall from a revenue standpoint.
Very good. Appreciate the update there. We just came into the open. Got December corn down 3/4 now at 413. November soybeans are up 3 at 968 1/4, and December Chicago wheat is down 5 1/4 at 565 1/2. One thing to point out: tomorrow morning we will have weekly export sales. We'll be out at 7:30 Central. We'll take a look at those numbers, talk about them in the war room. We appreciate everybody that tunes in on a daily basis. If you wouldn't mind, throw us a like or subscribe. Doesn't cost you anything to do so. It'll keep you up to speed on everything AgYield. So once again, thanks to everybody that supports the show. We are streaming live every day that the markets are open at 8:15 Central Time on X, Facebook Live, and YouTube Live. Appreciate the thoughts and comments here this morning, guys. It was a good show, and hope everybody has a great day, and we look forward to talking to you again tomorrow.
The War Room is proudly presented by AgYield. For over 50 years, the AgYield team has provided grain marketing and risk management solutions for growers across the country. Our veteran consultants harness cutting-edge technologies to pinpoint risk, optimize market performance, and protect your farm's profitability. Discover a new approach to farm revenue management at agyield.com.
Hey guys, Jack here. Be sure to support the show by hitting the like button, leaving us a comment, and subscribing to the channel for all the latest updates. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.